And in this video I will tell you about the Simoron technique or wish fulfillment technique. What is its specialty? Simoron technique. I call it the witchy kind. Because the methods that are used there, they are not from traditional psychotherapy. They are considered such a stirring step out of their comfort zone. But why does it work? Let's get this straight. Let me tell you about the examples so you immediately realize how absurd they are, and then I'll explain why they work. So, in order to make your wishes come true, Simoron technique suggests to do some non-standard situations, to create non-standard things, non-standard words to say and so on. That is, something that takes a person out of their comfort zone. For example, here's the most popular, the most famous, probably you have heard it somewhere, that to get rich, for example, you need to put your wallet on a charger at night. Very funny. When you put your wallet on the charger overnight, it's one of those rituals. One of the rituals. A second one, for example, is a funny ritual. Also girls love it, especially the desperate ones who already have nothing in their lives that works. This is me painting red underpants. And they need to be thrown over your right shoulder onto the chandelier. Here, we have a chandelier hanging from the ceiling, yes, and now we also have red underwear hanging from it. Very unusual, especially if there are several other people living in the house, yes. How do you explain it to them? But it's already a working technique. And the following. Here, for example, is a loaded wallet. Clearly, it's on the money. Hang red underpants on the chandelier to attract men. And there's also a technique for those who really want to travel, but there's no way they can do it. It doesn't add up. It takes a suitcase. And packing for vacation. A person dreams of going to the sea, for example, but can't make it. He picks up his suitcase and packs up with full confidence that he is going on vacation. That is, he turns on some fun music, for example, his favorite, and starts to put sunscreen there, here shampoo, here swimsuit, here dress. So I pack my suitcase. Next thing you know, this man is hailing a cab. Why am I telling you about these techniques? Because I've had them in my life too. I test everything on myself, and I tested them too. So I can confidently tell you what, where and how it works. And with the last of my money, as was my case many, many years ago, I order a cab to the airport. And so it is with this elevated mood that I leave the house with my suitcase. And the cabbie loads me up, takes me to the airport. I already with this suitcase and with an elevated mood go with the full feeling that now I have a plane right ahead of me, and further my favorite sea, which I dream about. Looking ahead, I want to tell you that in general since then I've been living out of suitcases, and I have travel, of course, once every 6 to 7 years. Since the money was only available to order a cab to and from the airport. So you want to believe it, you want to disbelieve it. Maybe something else worked there. But in Osprey, when a person works on himself, works with his subconscious, it gives results. And that's the way I got myself a coffee, sat in the airport, kind of waiting for my plane. And so when all this anticipation filled me, I was filled. I was aware that I was about to go home with a suitcase. But it's overplayed that I'm back from vacation, and my body is already rested. I mean, it's like, you know, in hypnosis to go to the sea, for example. You are sent to the seashore with words, and here you are with real life and getting out of your comfort zone. So you are training your brain, tuning into the very wave where your wish has already come true. That's what's most important. How underwear on a chandelier contributes to finding a man is still a mystery to me. But it's not a standard approach at all. When you and I walk in circles, yes, we do the same things, the same events, and we get the same result. So a woman, for example, does something, but there's no man. The result is that she doesn't have a man she loves, the kind of man she needs. Then she repeats all these events, everything seems to be the same. So good, she's all that, but the result is the same. And that's how her whole life could go. She's saying all the same things. Yeah, and gets the same thing. It is logical that when a person does the same thing, they get the same result in the output. And so all these events, they're all intertwined into one big ball. A man doesn't understand how to get out of this vicious cycle. And then these crazy techniques are these crazy techniques when we have it somewhere in the middle of the road. Yeah, here she comes, doing the same thing. Here she hung her underwear on the chandelier, and then something went wrong and we're not getting the same result. We have a different result already. So here's a change of event, some kind of stepping out of your comfort zone. When we interrupt the chain of monotonous actions, when we do unconventional deeds, we break this further chain. It will not lead to the same thing, it will lead to something else. For good or bad? That's another question. Because if a woman goes to courses, for example, to develop some female skills, to develop etiquette, when she improves herself, when she goes on dates with different men, trains, talks to them, then this event, it will give radically different results. And if she does nothing else but panties on the chandelier, sooner or later the chain will align and everything will happen again. The same thing will happen again. So the underpants on the chandelier here serve as such a push, an impulse to change the pattern of habitual actions. So if you make underpants here, if you make another trip, for example, to a therapist here, these will also be events that change your life in a different direction. If you were here, let's say, you met with a friend you haven't seen for 100 years, and it came to you that by her example, you see how you definitely don't want to live, that's another event that leads to another one. And that's the way you have it. The more unconventional events you have, the closer you are to an outcome, a positive outcome. And the Simoron technique just means that you have to do something that doesn't fit in your head. That is, walking backwards, for example, down the street. Can you imagine walking backwards? Or, for example, tie a balloon to your hat and walk on the subway, for example, without a balloon. Or, I don't know, walking around with my hands up. I mean, something that's out of the ordinary. Because anything out of the ordinary, it takes you out and takes you out of your comfort zone. Out of your comfort zone. That's the most key thing we see as to why the technique is working. And this is where you put your wallet on charge. Okay, we're all adequate people. And when your child sees, or your husband, the purse on the charger, he'll laugh, of course. You just need that reaction to realize you've done something out of your comfort zone. So there are so many techniques here, and as you go along, you start to come up with them yourself. That is, in that situation where you should be crying, you suddenly stand up and start laughing or jumping off a park bench. I mean, something life didn't expect from you in any way at all. Who is familiar with transurfing, this is a good way to interrupt the pendulum. When, for example, with transurfing, one negative event happened, and it happens that then the second happens, the third. Got on the wave and rode these negative events. It's all one thing on top of another. And that's the way it's going to be until you pull yourself together and say, okay, that's it, that's enough. And change the course of direction. That is, it is in your power to take it and laugh at a time when you should be crying. Then the pendulum stops its course of action, and you begin to control your life, and your desires begin to come true. That's how challenging, but simple and interesting Simoron technique is at the same time.